Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Brian Wilson and Brian Neiman getting ready to go down to cover the big convention in Tampa here in just a couple of days. We are joined on the phone now by Andrea Seabrook, who is a former NPR correspondent. Andrea and I share one thing in common. We've both served together on the Radio TV Correspondents Association over the years, which is an organization that handles credentials on Capitol Hill, but also we've both worked together in one goal, and that was to make Congress more open to the coverage of the media. Oh. So we've worked together in that, and she now has left NPR and is starting a new venture, and had some rather interesting things to say upon her departure and as she starts this new venture. Andrea, how are you?
Good morning, Brian. It's great to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't talked to you. Hey, listen, I want to ask you about this new venture and some of the things that you've said. That the most interesting thing that I thought I saw that was that you said that when you were covering Congress, you were so frustrated and you felt that you were basically being lied to each and every day as a reporter. Explain what you mean.
What I mean is that the debate in Washington isn't really even a debate anymore. The lies that I'm referencing here is not they're not sort of like blatant, outright kinds of lies that could ruin a career or be discoverable in some way. It's just a constant theater. I mean, even the debate that you watch maybe on C-SPAN, the truth is none of that is actual debate, and Americans know that. They're pre-written statements that are, told, said into a microphone on the floor of the House of Representatives, which is mostly empty most of the time. If they just panned the C-SPAN camera around, you would see nobody's there. There is no debate. These things are pre-written, preordained. We could tell from before this last election that there was going to be a huge crisis over funding of the government, and it happened, and then we're still in the midst of it. It's just, it's just a big fat theater.
So this really frustrated you when you were a correspondent covering Congress for NPR. Tell me why is this the reason you decided to leave NPR?
Yeah, and you know what? It's not NPR. I mean, I think NPR and your news organization, a lot of news organizations are struggling to figure out how to cover this place because the standard of what is news today is telling the American people what their government is doing. And on any given day, it looks as if what the government is doing is what Congress says and does on the floor. And so as a reporter, we're forced to record what these people say. We're forced to record the so-called debate and then go on to our news organizations and say, well, here's what the news of the day is.
Here's what they say, but you don't really get at the issue is what you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, then that means the media is part of the problem then. Did you talk to your bosses at NPR and say, hey, we're just covering the daily back and forth when there's much more to discuss here. Let's get into that. And what did they say?
What they would have loved to have any extra stories that I could do. And that is what they said. And I think that it's a great news organization and I loved being there. But, the truth is that if you were going to cover the news today, then you have to have all those other stories, the sort of news of the day first, and the extra stuff comes second. And the extra stuff, unfortunately, these days has become the real analysis, the talk about what actually is happening, what's behind all of the rhetoric and the words. And unfortunately, there aren't enough reporters in Washington to cover both things.
Yeah, I would say that it is frustrating, as someone who covered the Hill for many years. It is frustrating because you do, he said, she said, they said, the red said, the blue said, and then, you just throw it up there. But you very seldom do have the time to get in there and find out what's really going on and to get past the pre-cooked statements that everybody prepares as they go to debate these things.
Right. And the reason, and here's the thing, when you as a reporter are in a position of only repeating the pre-cooked statements, then you're being their mouthpiece. You are in some ways in collusion with the entire theater. And I just, I got to the point, it's a very personal goal I'm going through. It's very surprising to me it has become news. But, I refuse to do it anymore. I just can't stomach it.
Now we're talking with Andrea Seabrook, former NPR reporter, founder of decodedc.com. So then what are the stories we should be following as for the American public, for reporters? I mean, what are the stories that we're missing?
Well, the very first episode that I am putting together now and should be out in the next few days is called The House of Misrepresentatives. And it's about all the ways in which the House of Representatives is actually a very poor representation of the American people. And there are many more reasons than the ones you might imagine I would bring up, such as, the gender differences. 17% of the House and Senate are women, 51% of America is women, race, ethnic, class, all of those things. You've heard these stories before. What I'm actually talking about is the fact that because of complete political gridlock, not now, but 100 years ago, the number of representatives in the U.S. House was capped at 435. What that means is, for the last 100 years, as our population has exploded, your vote has literally been watered down with each passing year.
That's interesting.
The Constitution and the Federalist Papers lay out the idea that we should have much closer representation than one representative for every 650,000 people, which is what we have now. So I'll be talking about, those sorts of things. What's wrong, and what do we do about it?
Are there any straight shooters? I mean, I know you've said that you felt lied to on a regular basis, but did you feel like there were any straight shooters in Congress?
Oh, sure. There are wonderful, very well-meaning people in Congress who are doing or trying to do great work. The irony is, the more honest you are, the harder your leadership pulls you into line with the actual political...
We can't be honest? What are you crazy? You can't tell the truth?
Right, exactly. You can't do that. And every time somebody says what they actually think, they get pulled right into line or ostracized by their leadership. And so they have to be very careful within their own party. They have to be very careful of what they say.
Well, Andrea, I've always known you as being a straight shooter, and I'm very interested in watching to see how your new project develops. And when I read this story about some of the things that you were feeling, I had to say that, they resonated with me as someone who has also covered Capitol Hill. So that's why I wanted to have you on this morning. Good luck with
Brian,
your new.
Thank you.
Good luck with your new